This is IGN. US video game sales just had a horrible November. This is an IGN Daily Update special. November 2025 was a shockingly terrible month for video game sales in the US. While we traditionally think of November as a huge sales month, what with Black Friday and all, November 2025 was the worst November in video game hardware unit sales, and the worst in physical software dollar sales the US has seen since 1995. That's according to Circana's monthly report, which paints a pretty dismal picture of last month's commercial performance. The industry in the US saw declines across the board in hardware, accessories, and console spending for an overall drop of 4% year over year, at $5.9 billion in total spending. More specifically, hardware spending was down a whopping 27% year over year to $695 million, the lowest hardware spending total for November since 2005's $455 million. Even worse, unit sales reached 1.6 million, which is the lowest November total since 1995's 1.4 million. And that's representative of declines across the board. Xbox Series hardware sales were down 70% year over year. PS5 sales were down over 40%, and combined unit sales of Nintendo and Nintendo Switch 2 were down over 10% from Switch sales last year, despite this being a launch year for the Nintendo Switch 2. What's going on? As pointed out by Circana Senior Director Matt Piscatella, video game hardware has never been more expensive, reaching an all-time November high of $439 per unit, up 11% year over year. The Xbox specifically saw its average price per unit increase by over 30%, perhaps confirming one reason why folks aren't so keen to buy Xboxes specifically. With the Nintendo Switch 2, Piscatella says he's watching its sales very closely and offers this analysis of its current situation. With 6 months in the market, it remains the fastest-selling video game hardware in U.S. history. However, part of what was driving that was its availability to be bought during its launch window. It's been extremely rare to have such a successful new device not suffer supply constraints going into its first holiday sales period. Unit sales of Switch 2 were lower than those of Switch 1 during each console's first November, but the price points are also quite different. The average price paid for a new Nintendo Switch in November 2017 was $309, which, if adjusted for inflation, is approximately $405 in November 2025 dollars, compared to the $486 for Switch 2 in November 2025. Perhaps it's a case of demand having been pulled forward earlier in the year because people could find them, or perhaps the mass market is not as quickly adopting Switch 2 as it did Switch, or perhaps consumers are looking elsewhere for holiday gifting as the prices continue to rise in video game hardware. Tough to say at the moment. There's one piece of hardware that's doing okay, and it's not what you'd expect. The Next Playground. It was the third best-selling piece of video game hardware of November by unit sales, surpassing the Xbox Series, while the more expensive Xbox Series beat it in dollar sales. The PS5 was first in both categories, the Switch 2 was second. Piscatella calls the Next Playground a remarkable story, noting that while everyone else is having a bad time, it just had a superb November by comparison, saying, November 2025 tracked unit sales at U.S. retailers for Next Playground were just 7% below its entire tracked lifetime sales at retail through October. With an average selling price of just over $200 in November, strong placement at retail, and some successful influencer and viral marketing efforts, the Next Playground became one of the hottest video game products of the holiday season during the month. We'll have to see how well the pace can keep up, as there are reports that the Next Playground is now largely sold out, with secondary market prices on sites like eBay soaring accordingly. There could be a lesson here that more affordable, family-friendly gaming devices carry appeal during holiday gifting season. Things aren't looking much better on the content side either. While Circana reports that content spending was up 1% year over year to $4.8 billion, that's with subscription spending rising 16% and 2% growth in mobile. Physical software sales, meanwhile, dropped 14% year over year to the worst November since 1995, the year Circana began tracking them. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 put the Call of Duty franchise back on top for another debut month in November as the month's bestseller, marking the 18th year in a row a Call of Duty is launched to the top of the charts. That said, Circana reports that the franchise saw a double-digit percentage full-game dollar sales decline when compared to November 2024. It's a little tricky to make precise comparisons between Black Ops 7 and its predecessor Black Ops 6, given both games launched into Xbox Game Pass, and Black Ops 6 released in October last year, not November. Still, Piscatella tells us that Black Ops 7's full game dollar sales finished below those of Black Ops 6's last November. Additionally, Black Ops 7 is currently the 7th best-selling game of the year to date, and Piscatella anticipates that its rival, Battlefield 6, will end the year as the best-selling game of 2025. This isn't the first time in recent memory it's been beaten, with Hogwarts Legacy coming out on top in 2023. Notably that year, Hogwarts Legacy beat Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which did not launch into Game Pass, while Black Ops 7 this year did, almost certainly making its actual dollar sales total lower as a result. We won't get the December and full year results until January, which will tell us a lot more about whether the games industry is about to enter a lean period, or if this November was just a goofy one-off. That's your IGN Daily Update. My name is Tony Jackson, and if you want more news on your favorite games and entertainment topics, make sure to visit us at IGN.com. You can also download our free app on your phone or console, and subscribe to our weekly podcasts through the podcast service of your choice.
Spoken Layer.